not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit black people. No.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well then, show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well then, stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a bird, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
Can kill all in my mind, but you will not kill the freedom of black folks. It's coming. We're going to get it. We fought every one of your damn lousy wars, lady, and you give us nothing. Now the war is going to be here, but we're going to be free. Now you kill you want to, but we kill too.
Good morning. Good morning. I appreciate anybody that is going to check out the live to the Villager on Deck. I appreciate anybody that's still watching us from the Friedman Media platform. We've not taken the page down in its totality. We're just not pubbing it right now, but I still got it fed through because everybody hasn't figured out that we're over here. But the Villager on Deck YouTube channel is available for you to like, subscribe, and share to everybody. This is where we'll be coming from this point on. This morning is a special Villager on Deck. And the main thing for me is to always try to get the information out the best way possible. And something that is obviously near and dear to my heart is the health of my community. I come from a situation where I talked about it yesterday, really on my last leg, dealing with my health, and I had to get things together or they were going to have to get me together. And I was fortunate enough to give myself the benefit of the doubt, because I didn't think I could actually do it, but I looked at my kids, I looked at my family, and that was way more important than the food that I was consuming. So obesity is no stranger to me. It is no stranger to millions of Black Americans, American Blacks, American freedmen in America. So I am actually looking to dig into this, and this will not be a one and done. This will not be a one-off. This will be a series that we are going to have to dig into, because I've got an individual who I have a lot of respect for. We go back and forth on social, and she's in my chats a lot when she's not busy, when she's not, doing what she does as a professional. But this morning, I want to bring in Dr. Cynthia Audiemi. And you are from Ohio, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good morning. How
Shannon.
you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm trying to act like we just didn't talk like 3 minutes ago. So, I'm gonna make this real easy for you. I'm trying to act like we didn't talk just a few minutes ago. But Dr. Cynthia and I go back and forth on social about a lot of health issues, about a lot of things dealing with politics, in our culture. And I went to her first because I trust her. I trust her professionalism, but I trust her knowledge on this because she is a PhD in public health. So she has a lot of history in this. She's got some things she brought to the table today. So we won't have to worry about talking about what women bring to the table, because Dr. Audiemi brought some stuff to the table this morning. So I appreciate her bringing some things to the table, the Villager on Deck table. But this obesity conversation, I think we've already agreed, it can't be had in just one conversation. We're going to have to do this in a series. Okay. We're going to have to do some things here today, lay some groundwork, and then come back and start chopping this tree from different directions. You being the public health professional, how closely do you work with obesity? I know there's a full gamut of things that you have to deal with, but how closely do you work with obesity in your profession?
Well, first of all, your health is your wealth, and thank you so much for inviting me onto your platform.
My pleasure.
As a public health scholar practitioner, I live with obesity, so I can bring a nuance or a lived experience or a living experience to what obesity can do to you and what it does to you.
Okay.
And talk about it from a perspective of obesity is a complex medical condition. And I can also argue that it is for American descendants of slavery or Black folks, it is the embodiment of being a bottom caste.
So let's start there. I know our history, and we're not here to talk about where we originated from, but where we identify in this quest for repair of our people, to have it be recognized fully, not trinkets, we don't even need politicians just to advocate for us now. We need repair. We need a full schedule of reparations. So if we go back, the reason we need this, we go back all the way to 1619. I know we can go back beyond then, but just for our conversation's sake and for the at-risk series sake, they never really depict obesity in enslavement periods, unless you saw what, like a mammy or something?
Right, the archetype of a mammy.
Okay. Don't you think that there were overweight people, there were obese people back in those times as well?
Absolutely, but let's look at what we're calling obesity
Okay.
from a CDC's definition of obesity is
Okay.
being severely overweight. And that
Sure.
means that your body mass index is 30 or above.
Okay.
That's what's considered clinically obese. And
Okay.
most certainly, obesity has always been around, but we have found since the introduction of high fructose corn syrup into our diets and into manufacturing cheap processed foods that the rate of obesity has skyrocketed, especially amongst Black women.
Okay. So our diet, we start with our diet. I think at this point, even though we were treated the way we were treated, we were probably eating better foods, or at least they weren't processed back in those times. And maybe they weren't better foods because we ate the scraps. Our ancestors ate the scraps of what was left when we weren't able to manifest and produce things ourselves and eat it. We were given the scraps. So let's just say that when we were able to start eating foods that we grew, and cattle and fowl that we raised, when we started eating things on our own, we weren't given the scraps. Where do you think we went wrong in that division? Because I've started to see this through generations. Our generations have started to be heavier. But when you look back at a lot of our pictures, from our families, there weren't that many obese people back in the 30s and 40s and things like that. You didn't see a whole family that was obese. And we're not just talking about the clinical term, the 30 plus BMI. We're talking about like really overweight people. You now see families, whole families, where everybody has a weight issue. Where did that start? Did that just, we were eating well, eating good foods, and then we just flipped over to processed foods? Did we get lazy as a collective? I mean, how did we start turning our diet to where eating more fast food than eating cooked food at home? Where do you think that started?
Well, first of all, I don't believe it's from an individual failing.
Okay.
This is a systemic and it goes higher. And
Okay.
we eat what we have access to.
Okay.
And what we have the money for.
Okay.
Now, let me make something very clear. Cheap processed food is tasty. And what that cheap processed food does is it sits upon a receptor in our brain, which by far is actually the receptor in which opioids sits on when a person takes an opioid. And what happens is when we get that taste of that sugar or that salt, our brain starts popping out dopamines. I mean, like popcorn.
Right.
And we can't stop.
Right.
The television commercial, Lay's potato chips, you can't eat just one. It's true.
Right.
And so when you're in an environment where you have access to all these cheap, low nutritious foods, your body becomes accustomed to it. And then it also develops an addiction. I believe that sugar and salt is one of the biggest addictions. And it's not well talked about.
Right.
And it happened over a period of time. When things became cheaper, we were able to use what little funds we had to purchase that. So if you have a family of 4 and you're making under, say, 30,000, you're going to choose the groceries or the nutritional options that will get your family full.
Right. Okay. And before we go any further, I want you to, where you are positioned, I'm only catching half of your queendom. I need to get you more position in the center. So there you go. Give me a little bit more. Give me there you go. And if that's not messing with the laptop or anything, there you go. There you go. Then we got her all now, y'all. We got her all now. So we were only getting half the phase. And I knew once I put a slide or something up here, we might have had you all the way out the paint. We don't want you out the paint. We need you in here today. So I appreciate that. All right. I should have got that together because I actually saw that before, but then we were looking at something else. I've got some stuff up from the CDC. Did you want to go into any of that right now? Or I really wanted to kind of give the basis of why I named this at risk. And you know, I'm a word guy. Okay. I'm a word guy. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to showcase the definition of at risk. The crazy thing was it brought on even a multi-level situation. Once I brought this up, I Googled at risk. I wanted the definition, and I was looking for these words that people will commonly know: danger, peril, jeopardy, hazard, threat, menace, right? But look at the example that they used. 23 million people in Africa are at risk from starvation. Now, we're here talking about obesity. We're here talking about the other side of the pendulum from starvation. But look at the example that they used. 23 million people in Africa are at risk from starvation. I believe it to be far more than that. Just knowing that continent over there, there's definitely more than 23 million people that are at risk. But this was a definition that I uploaded this morning. And just to know that our stamp as a melanated people, we're all over this thing. So we're the most starved out people in the world, and we're also the unhealthiest people in the world. We got to find a happy median here, Dr. Cynthia. We got to find a happy medium. And the only way that I truly believe that we find a happy median is with the repair of our people. I can tail any conversation right back to redress, recompense, repair, reparations, because what makes us buy that processed food? What makes us buy the stuff that makes us feel good but not be good? And it's price a lot of times. It's animated features. It's the commercialization of food. We buy a lot of food right from what we see on TV and things like that. And where I've come to the point where I can't look at TV advertisements and stuff like that. My journey of not eating meat is over a year in now. I don't even let myself get caught up in looking at dishes and things like that I used to eat, because that's just going to possibly bring on a craving. But for the person that isn't where I am, what can we do to really start to steer towards a more healthy fare of eating, knowing that they've got us cornered with the processed stuff, with the cheap stuff, with all types of things? Where can we go, since we know we are at risk, since we know we are endangered, since we know we are in jeopardy of our health? And this threatens our family, it threatens our children, our grandchildren. Since we know we're here, what can we do to just, on an individual basis, start to try to walk away from some of these clutches? Because that dopamine, when you said that to me before, dopamine, I mean, you don't hear that word a lot associated with food, but that basically is tricking your brain. Is that something that's like in narcotics? You said opiates. So is that something that triggers you to want to fiend food at that point?
Well, what that is, dopamine is what you call your motivation. Well, dopamine is the reward. So when you crave something, and you start to think about it and you get motivated and say, I'm getting ready to eat it. When you eat it, that becomes your reward. And once you consume that reward, the dopamine, which is a hormone, just starts going, your body gets flooded with it. Just like when a person who smokes cigarettes, who's nicotine addicted, they may smoke a cigarette at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're fine. They got their dopamine high. And then say by 10 o'clock in the morning, the dopamine has depleted. So you need more of that nicotine to get that same high.
Okay.
So that's how that kind of works. And I gave that example because, you have to think of it from a brain health perspective, because overeating is not an individual failure. I have to tell you that. Overeating comes from so many different situations in one's life like anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
depression, loneliness, boredom, and just access to you know, sugars and salt.
Right.
And for us, many of us live in what's called a grocery desert, where you don't have well quality stores near you. You have low quality stores like your Dollar General, your Family Dollar, your Dollar Tree, and that stuff is cheap. You go in there with $10, you can come out with a weekend or maybe a evening's worth of junk food.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep on doing that. Now, to answer your question, how can you reverse those behaviors at an individual level? It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you a good example.
Sure.
And I always use my man, because my man is just a phenomenal person.
Use your king. Use your king. I need that. I need that.
Okay, he is phenomenal. So my man, when I was going through a situation like with getting my doctorate, it was very, very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And having something salty or sweet was something that I would use as a coping mechanism. But when I talk to my man, he says, baby, you can't do this. We need you. This is what you can do. You substitute things. Right. Instead of having those chips, maybe have a piece of fruit. If you need something crunchy, eat some popcorn. Instead of putting butter on it, put some olive oil on it.
Got it.
And so they were small steps. But I'm fortunate because I have such a good social network of people who care about me. And so that's another thing, the quality of your network.
Right.
If you're in a relationship, your husband or wife, your children, that's how it starts.
So your support system is more important than you actually trying to make the change. Your support system is most important, because you could be as strong like bull. But if your support system is trash, then you're going to reel back. Most people reel back because their support system is trash, not because they're weak. It's because your support system can weak. And I'm going to speak from a personal perspective here. Being a bariatric patient, that was one of the things that they asked me about as far as my support system went. And I should have been a classic case of having a great support system. I had 2 teenage daughters. My wife at the time was a bariatrics patient. I really had what should have been a great situation, but my support system was horrible because she was a really bad bariatrics patient. And my daughters, because of they're into their teen years now, I'm not just putting the food on their plate the way I used to, because I grew up in that household. And when kids had the plate, we had the triangle plate, and you had your 2 sides and you had your entree and this, that, and the other. When I stopped really making their food and they could just put more of this on it and more of that on it, I wouldn't say that they became unhealthy, but I lost my conscience because I was sitting there trying to figure out what I was going to eat. And I should have been in a better frame if I had had a better support system. So the support system means the world. It means even more than what you have in the cupboards and what you have in the refrigerator and freezer, because you can always get in your car and go down the street and go to the fast food joint, scarf down some fast food, and then come back and be like, what we eating tonight?
Yeah.
You satisfied your craving. You got unhealthier while you were doing it, but then you can come back and act like you're just right with the team. I did that many a times. I ate 2 dinners many a times. I ate 2 breakfasts many a times, or 2 lunches when I was at my highest states of being at my lowest levels. So I know what you're saying as far as the support system goes. And having a good mate, if you are in a relationship, having a good mate means you've got somebody who supports what you're trying to do, supports your healthiness. I don't understand when I see 2 people struggling. I don't understand it now because of what I've been through. When I see 2 people struggling to get somewhere from A to B, they're both out of shape, overweight, this, that, and the other, because I've been there. So I don't understand how that is even a thing to do now. But I try to deal with those people if I can get any type of conversation with them. I try to help those types of people. A couple that is morbidly obese, and we're not just talking about the 30 plus index. We're talking about people that are just out of shape, barely breathing, this, that, and the other. Those two people rely on each other. And how can those two people rely on one another when they're both hurting, when they're both in pain, when they're truly, doc, they dying? How can they depend on each other? And problem is, they ended up depending on each other going into the grave. People like yourself who can bring out the statistics, the histories, and all those types of things, we don't have enough of you. This is why when I can get people like yourself to speak much more from a professional perspective, I need that, because I can say it all day, what I've gone through or what I know people that have gone through, but you have stats, you have histories that can show our people nothing's going to save us but us. Nothing is going to save us but us. Because I want you said something about food deserts, Dollar Generals, Big Lots, and Dollar Trees, and different things like that. There's an ongoing joke around online. I don't know if you see it. Like, I just bought some cheddar cheese from Dollar Tree and my neck won't bend now. That's a joke about bad food. That's a joke about bad nutrition. I get it, and I get why people say what they say, but you're also exposing that you're buying cheese from Dollar Tree, which is a thing now. Dollar Tree has coolers now. Dollar General has coolers now. Family Dollar. You shouldn't be buying no food you're going to consume from the dollar store.
But
go ahead.
That is an expression of the systemic failure in which our government has placed us in. We get all the failures in our neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it goes upstream. I stay away from that individual failings, because first of all, it's inappropriate and it victim blames.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not on it. I'm not on it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel sorry for people who only have access to those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate. I live in a grocery oasis where I have a cornucopia of quality foods.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole lot of people that are not. But let me give some statistics, and I'm not going to get really deep into it, because not everything
you want to bring up from the national health thing that you brought up?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me bring that up. I just want to make sure we got that going. 1 second here. Share that screen. Okay. Appreciate anybody that's checked in, came into the stream. We are talking with Dr. Cynthia Audiemi, PhD for public health out of Ohio, and she is giving us some breakdowns about obesity in the Black community. Let me bring this up. Let me add this here, Dot, and then I'm going to go back over to it. And I can scroll down. Let me make it a little larger. You tell me when it's good on your screen where you can see it.
Yeah. Well, you go to page, I believe it's 14.
14?
Yes, because that gives a composite on adult obesity, and it's stratified by race and ethnicity. And I do want to share something with the audience.
Sure.
In the United States, race is dichotomous, Black and white, and you can go all the way back to Bacon's Rebellion back in the 17th century, where Black and white was established as a caste.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at Hispanic, you want to always find out what Hispanic you're talking about, because Hispanics self-identify as white or Black, and some as none. Like, I can give you a good example. So in my neck of the woods in Montgomery County, Ohio, 1 in 5 people self-identify as Black.
Okay.
Under Hispanics, I think there are like maybe 22,000.
Okay.
And 1 out of 4 of those 22,000 self-identify as whites. So please be careful when you look at these statistics. You want
Okay.
to always ask questions.
Right.
So when we're looking at these statistics, and NHANES always does samples, and that just means they just do a sample of the population, and
Right.
they're very thorough and rigorous. So what you get out of these population estimates are very closely identifying with the percentage or proportion of the population that expresses with a certain outcome. So if you look at non-Hispanic whites, we see that the prevalence of obesity is 41.4. So there's like 69% of the population in the United States that self-identify as whites, and about 13% of the population that self-identify as blacks. And that Black is not disaggregated.
Right.
But mostly they're American descendants of slaves.
Okay.
So when you look at the Black prevalence for obesity, it's 50%, 49.9. Now, what blew my mind, and I really should not be surprised, but for Black females, the prevalence is 58% compared to 40% for white women and 15% for Asian. And remember, Asian is not flat. There's different Asian subgroups. And then Hispanic is 45.7. So that could be some Black Hispanics up in here as well.
Right.
So that probably would make our prevalence much higher. And see the problem with obesity is that it is associated with so many adverse health outcomes. My expertise is in elevated blood pressure. And I can tell you, Black women here in the United States, we have the highest prevalence of blood pressure, like 58%. However, our brothers, the mortality attributed to hypertension for our brothers is much higher. Our Black men die from elevated blood pressure, and that is associated with obesity or just stress, because there's not very many Black men under the obesity category. It says here that 40% are obese relative to, actually is the second out of four, the lowest being the Asian men, the highest being the Hispanic men, and then followed by white men.
Right.
So it has such deleterious effects on our health.
I put a post up, and you were the first person who responded to it. I'm not even sure if anybody actually even responded to it on Facebook, but on Instagram, you were one of the first people to actually respond to it regarding 4 out of 5 Black women are overweight or obese in America. 4 out of 5. So overweight is one thing, and then it goes to obese. Now, that's alarming, and that's just an understatement. I want to cuss, but I'm going to be real professional right now. We're talking about 80%, 80 out of 100, 800 out of 1,000, 8,000 out of 10,000. If we were going to a small basketball arena, it would only be the baseline population that wouldn't be overweight or obese, and the whole rest of the arena would be overweight or obese. That is critical going forward. Knowing that right now, that is critical going forward. When they bring statistics out like that, Dr. Cynthia, why doesn't it alarm more people like myself, like yourself? Why don't people make an about face at that point? I mean, I'd be ready to jump on a scale. If I'm a Black woman, I'd be ready to jump on a scale just to see where I'm at. If I think that I'm gaining a little bit too much, or if I know that I've been pushing the scale away for a while, why doesn't it make us do more of an about face on an immediate basis? Why do we always have to wait for a doctor to start telling us what we can and cannot eat?
Well, I can't speak for everyone, but I can say this. when there's other people around you that look like you, it becomes normal. That's number one. Number two, in our community, we have so many adverse health and wealth outcomes. It's just one of a million things that we have to worry about.
Okay. So here's the thing. I'm really trying to keep this on more. I love your statistical fair. I love the basic knowledge that you can just spill out right now, because we talked briefly and we said we were going to keep this very rudimentary. We were not going to try to jump off in a whole bunch of 4 or 5 syllable words, because we tend to lose one another and in each other with words like that. I know a lot of people like to sound smart on situations like these, but this is a very basic subject and we need to stay very basic with it. You are speaking for the collective at this point as a health professional. And what you just said, the normalization of it, when you see people around you and everybody looks the same, everybody's round, who's gonna be critical of someone else if they're in that same state? And I'm not telling people to be critical, to be nasty, to be belittling, but if you know you need help to getting out of a chair, and when you get up, you got to help somebody else get out of a chair, something needs to happen. And the one thing that I have learned in my quest was that the easiness of it for me to do things in 2023 versus the way it was in 2013 and before, I like that. And I know other people like that. They like when they have the flexibility in their body to be able to do things where they don't need aids. Because I needed an aid. I had to walk with a cane, Sister Cynthia. Well, I you know what? I got to say Dr. Cynthia. I call you Sister Cynthia on a regular basis, but Dr. Cynthia. I had to walk with a cane. That was very humiliating to me, but I spun it into a positive thing, because I was still getting around better than most with the cane. But the fact that I was walking with a cane was an insult to me. It was an embarrassment to me. I had been an athlete. I had been ambulatory all my life and been very fruitful in my kids' lives, running around with them and whatnot, even as a obese individual. When I could no longer do those things, that's where it became personal to me. So what does it take for people do you literally have to gut punch people? Do you got to gut punch people? I mean, because nobody's coming to save us. Nobody is coming to save us, Doc. So what do we have to do to get our people in line to understand we can't fight this fight that we're trying to fight out here in the streets if we can't push the plate away, if we can't get some more walking and some more exercising in our life? How are we going to sit out here and try to fight for freedom and liberation and Black power when we can't even push that second serving of food that we shouldn't have had as much as we had even in the first serving? Where do we start? Because I want to stay on the basic level, because we got about 3-4 more conversations of this, and I want to stay on the basic level. Where can we start? Because I want to be more of a helper than a hindrance.
Okay. And that's a very good question, Shannon. First of all, you start with having these conversations.
Okay.
And you also start having conversations with your family members.
Okay.
I mean, if you cannot get your family members on board, then it's going to be very difficult. Well, let me take that back. It may not be difficult getting your family members on board. And if you can't, well, you got to step back and get your close friends on board. For me, and I can tell the audience, I'm 60 years old, and I want to live into my 100s. And I get around pretty good. And I do not want to have multiple chronic conditions where I am not mobile.
Right.
Because when it gets to the point where you become immobile, then early death will ensue. It's just the bottom line. It will ensue. And healthcare costs when you are obese, even if you have publicly funded insurance, is still high.
Absolutely.
It's still high.
Absolutely. You have a situation where, and I'm gonna have you loosen up by the second or third stream. You tend to not want to be a know-it-all. I see this in your spirit. You're really trying to pull back and not trying to be pushy. I'm gonna need you to be pushy, Doc, because this is what happened with me. Um, when I stopped eating meat, I didn't tell my family. And of course, it caused friction first and foremost with my lady because she felt like I made this life-changing decision without her. And I did. I did. But I didn't make it without her. I just made it to where I wouldn't have any type of opposition because I really didn't stop eating meat cold turkey. If anybody knows a little bit about my journey with this, I declined from eating pork first, then beef, then chicken, then seafood. And I did it in like 4 week successions. And I didn't say anything negative about what was being cooked around me. It really didn't even affect me as far as smell wise until months later, to where I started to smell certain foods and they aggravated me, probably because my brain was telling me that I wanted it still. But I didn't say anything to anybody because I didn't want the naysayer talk, or I didn't want any type of negative commentary that might have just made me give in to the urge of wanting a chicken wing, of wanting some breakfast sausage, of wanting a steak. I wanted to be able to try to go at it the way I knew I had to go at it, on an alone level, because what you just said, your family, and then you went right to your friends. No, your family. The people that you're in the house with are the first people that need to get on board. Your friends, they're going to come to try to appease you. Some will be there to help you, but most of your friends are going to come to appease you. Speaking from history, because I couldn't get my friends, who I would call friends today, I couldn't get them to talk candidly about me and my overweight, my obese, my detrimental times until I had lost the weight. They didn't talk about it with me when I was at my highest height. They waited until they saw some success, so they saw some decline in the weight to where they really start. So that's your secondary people. Your primary people is who you need as a support system. And this isn't superseding any of your expertise, because you did that from a personal standpoint. You're trying not to be a know-it-all. And like you said, clinically, doctors will consider you obese, but you're healthier than most people you walk around on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. But it's the clinical term that you're going to be considered obese. Myself, I know I could lose, for the doctor's sake, they would want me to lose another 160 pounds, I think it is. No, 140 pounds. For my height, they want me to be somewhere about 160, 170 pounds. I haven't seen that since 9th grade, 10th grade. I'm never going to get there again. I got down to 230, 240, and I felt like I was skeletal. I looked like I was on that stuff because my body had I had sunk in. And I didn't really feel any better being that small. Once I got up, probably 250, 260, I was feeling better, 270. Now I'm sitting at right under 3. I'm like 298 last time I hit a scale. Probably I'm a little over. I've eaten bad for the last probably couple of weeks. I've had some changes in the domestic situation, so I've eaten bad. I don't know. You see my pictures with my granddaughter and stuff. She was with us for several months, right? When she stopped being with us, I stopped eating as healthy as I was eating. I was eating fruit every day, a couple times a day, just because she was eating fruit, because that's what I was putting into her body. When she leaves, my desire for fruit automatically went down because I didn't need to buy the bananas, the apples, the pineapples, the blueberries, all the stuff but I still do. So I got to get back into doing the same things that I was doing for her, for myself, or I'm going to go back into more bad eating habits. And, so I get what you're saying when you say you're trying not to be a hard ass, Doc. I get it. But this is what we need. This is what we need, people who have the initials behind their names telling it. People will listen to me and it'll go in one ear out the other, but they'll listen to you based on the facts, based on your scholarly gifts, and just the fact that you're living it. I've always had a hard time listening to people when they're not living it. I don't want to, what I say earlier. I don't want an obese pastor. I don't want an obese first lady. I don't want a man of God, a woman of God who can't get up and down the aisle. Okay, and it's nothing about their religious factor, but God ain't telling you to get healthy. God ain't giving you that message. That's what I lose faith in people that try to pull that wool. You can't pull that wool on me. You are an unhealthy man.
Let me say this.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
was reading an article where a young lady, she looked to be a millennial Black chick, and she was saying how it was cheaper for her to eat out than to buy groceries. And I thought that was such disinformation, because when you eat out, you have a high amount of sodium, a high amount of sugar, and your body just cannot process those types of ingredients, especially high fructose corn syrup. Your body will use the simple carbohydrates before it will use the complex carbohydrates, and then the protein. And I'm telling you, if you live alone and you're around enablers, your friends, you're always going out eating, or you're calling some type of delivery services, you got to stop. You got to stop. And you do it slowly.
Right.
And first thing I could tell you from my experience, and I've been doing this, is going on over a week now, and I'm really proud of myself. But every morning I would use sugar and carnation milk in my coffee.
Okay.
And since I've stopped using those ingredients, I find that I'm not stiff, because sugar is associated with inflammation. And I find that I'm much more mobile and I feel better. And so it has to be small. So anyone out there that's listening or who shares this with someone, start small.
Okay.
Certainly go to your doctor, know your numbers, know your weight, know your blood pressure, know your HDL, LDL, and your hemoglobin A1C. Know those numbers. Those are very important. And from there, I would if you have high blood pressure, I would buy one of those high blood pressure monitors, preferably the automatic one, and do it every week, maybe every Friday or every Saturday, just to kind of monitor your blood pressure, because we have a high prevalence in our community. And you don't even have to be obese to be high blood pressure.
No,
you don't have to. But I'm saying these things, obesity can exacerbate it, can make it worse.
Right.
And I'm gonna say this too, and because I'm an advocate for men. When you are obese, there's research demonstrating that there's an association between obesity and erectile dysfunction. So if you're in a relationship and you're having erectile dysfunction issues, that is a game changer. That is a game changer.
And can't, like, diabetes, isn't that a direct effector of erectile dysfunction? If you are a diabetic, isn't there a situation that causes you to not be able to perform, along with high blood pressure, along with what's so we got high blood pressure, we got diabetes. If you don't have good blood flow to your heart, you ain't gonna have good blood flow nowhere else.
Right on. And it's an association. It's not one causes the other.
Right.
See, in public health, causality takes a long time, but we can say association. And that basically is, if you have two groups, one with the condition, one without, the people with the conditions, they share some type of attribute, whether it be race, whether it be gender, whether it be federal poverty guideline cutoffs, whether it be some type of other metabolic disorder, like, higher waist circumferences. So they are associated with those things. Now, on a female side, when you are obese, it is very difficult for you to get around. Your self-esteem suffers because you can't wear the clothes that you might see people on social media wearing. Just because Sheen had, and I'm not fat shaming whatsoever, just because it is in 5X doesn't mean it's appropriate for you to wear it.
Right.
Okay. I will never fat shame anyone. But I'm coming from a health perspective so that you can live longer. Let me tell you something. Here in Montgomery County, and I'm going to always go back to Montgomery County, Ohio.
Absolutely.
Our community health assessment, which is a document that comes out, I think every 3 to 5 years, and it just tells the health of the community in terms of morbidity, incidence of diseases, prevalence, things of that nature. This past health assessment that came out in 2022, I looked at the age-adjusted life expectancy, and Black men had a life expectancy of 63.8 years relative to white men that was a little over 70 years. I was appalled. I was truly appalled.
So we're almost a decade lighter life expectancy than a Caucasian individual, and that is based on statistics that we've talked about and histories that we've talked about. So why wouldn't that just be jarring to somebody? If I'm looking at, in a very mixed community that I live in and grew up in, if I'm looking at a guy that I grew up with, we did the same things, played football, baseball, basketball together, whatever, but he's white and I'm Black. If I got to look at him and say he's going to live 7 to 10 years longer than I am just because he's on that side of the system, that would make me want to live better. That would make me want to eat better and be better. But why is that not appealing to us as a collective?
I can't really say, because everyone has a different reality, and sometimes people just resolve to be in that space. We're outliers, so we don't resolve to be in that space. But if at least one person that's listening to this resolves to improve their health, I believe we're making progress, and that one person can engage another person.
So, you talked about the clothes. Where clothes are at this point. I don't know why they even produce some of this stuff, but when you see a person that wears clothing that not only is it not becoming of fashion sense, but it doesn't fit their body because of their body shape. When you see people that wear things like this, that's more peer pressure, right? I mean, aren't they wearing these clothes to try to impress people? And I see big men, big males try to get into these skinny jeans and these slim fit type clothes, and they're always having to tug on the stuff because of the pressure. Because of the pressure that I mean, look, I see, I'm not here to be nice. So, I mean, I'm going to let you be nice, Doc. But you can't put your big ass up in some clothes and you've got all that girth around your midsection that's telling you no. Because, see, for one, we've got it bad in our collective. We don't like pulling our pants up over our belly. I get it. But lose the belly then. Go ahead and lose the belly, because if you don't pull your pants up over your belly and you just pull them up under your gut, it's because every man out here is a 38. I'm a 38. I'm a 38. That's under your gut, bro. That's under your gut. Go wrap that tape measure around your navel and come back and holler at me. You are not I used to hear dudes that were basically my size. And I'm like, what size are those? You know, oh man, these are 42s, 44s. I'm like, I know good and well we about the same size. And I'm up here at a 55, 56. I'm thinking he gonna say 54, 56, 42, 44. It was because they were measuring underneath their belly. And I'm like, there's no way those pants are that size. But it was, and this is what I would have to just basically put people on Front Street. I'm like, that's not the proper way to measure your clothing. You measure your clothes up around here. I literally had to drive somebody to a clothing store. Like, he needs measurement for his pants. The first thing they're going to do is wrap it right around your waist. They ain't going to say, lift up your gut so we can put the tape measure, because that's not really your waistline.
But see, Shannon, it's become normal. It's become normal. And it can't be normal. And if you're a good friend, you could talk to someone about their health.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only, I mean, obesity does so many bad things to us. Did you know, are you familiar with a term called non-alcoholic fatty liver?
No, but it'll be a good place for us to jump into, conclude this conversation soon, because I don't want to keep you here all day. And like I said, this is going to be a series.
Right.
This conversation, when we start talking about different things, I'd love to be able to hear about this, because I also want to talk about Prader-Willi syndrome, something that I saw. It only affects about 20 to 40,000 individuals per year. But one of the big symptoms is the lack of satisfaction where your diet is concerned. People will just eat themselves into this situation. So please tell us about this. What do you say?
Non-alcoholic fatty liver.
Non-alcoholic fatty liver.
So
okay.
I'll just be real quick. What it is?
Okay, no, do your thing.
When you have a lot of fat, it starts to cluster around your liver.
Okay.
And what happens is it can result to cirrhosis. It can result to, or is associated with cirrhosis and liver damage.
Okay.
And this is attributed to being overweight. Just like sleep apnea, there are so many things. And when you are obese and you're living with these things, you got to stop and ask yourself, I have all these chronic conditions, and the common denominator is obesity.
Mm-hmm.
That's the common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about being real with yourself. Being real with yourself. And you got to get to that point.
Right. Right. Going to the doctor has always been an Achilles heel for us. And I understand the lack of trust in physicians historically. And even currently, I understand that people don't trust physicians universally. Now, individuals, I get it. But you've also what you got to do is you got to go past the history of it, and you got to find you somebody that you can lay it all on the table with. And I actually had a good PCP when I was living closer to Detroit, and it switched up when I switched counties. I could have continued to go to the doctor, but I really didn't feel like driving 45, 50 minutes just to go to a standard doctor's appointment. And once I moved back out this way, I ended up with a pretty decent one, but she ended up having a baby and changing her practice and this, that, and the other. But I always want a physician. And this is the way I'll go out. I want a physician that I can come in and literally lay it all on the table. I don't want to keep anything from the person that's supposed to be trying to keep me healthy. So I think our first and foremost thing that we need to do as people is we need to get to the doctor, knowing those levels, as you talked about. I used to know all that stuff coming out of bariatrics. I knew what my LDLs, HDLs, I knew what all that stuff was. My doctors thought I was like Rain Man, because it became so important to me. And I was posting, I take a picture of my blood pressure and getting taken and post it on social media. Those things were big to me at that time because of where it had been to where it was with the weight loss. I want to see other people do the same thing. As much as we post goofy stuff online, I rarely see somebody checking in at their doctor. I rarely see somebody talking about that their doctor gave them a clean bill of health. Because when I do see that, It's so funny. I see people that's bigger than me, and they'll talk about, yeah, I went to the doctor today and they gave me a clean bill of health. And I'm like, the fuck you say?
You're lying.
There's no way that the doctor gave you a clean bill of health and you looking at about 475, 500 pounds. Ain't no doctor gave you a clean bill of health. You just waddled out of a restaurant with me a couple weeks ago with a doggy bag.
No, you didn't say waddle.
Look, man, I'm not here to be nice. I'm not here to be, because I got my own problems and I got my own situation. So I'm not here to be nice. I'm trying to get us healthy. We got to fight, Dr. Cynthia. We got a fight that we want to do. Think about this. We saw, and we've talked about it, and we clowned it a little bit. All these marches and everything around, all these marches and stuff, people dancing and cha-cha sliding and doing all this stuff. Where are the people that's morbidly obese? How come we not marching for our health? Why do we got to wait for a black man, woman, or child to get killed to get out in the street and march 3 blocks and have to sit down somewhere with a bottle of water on our neck to keep us from overheating? Why can't we march out here like the other people? Why? Because they live in 7 to 10 years longer than we are, because they're in a healthier state. So we need to get off our asses. First and foremost, nobody's coming to save us. The only thing they're going to continue to give us is the Save-A-Lots. The only thing they're going to continue to give us is the Spartan foods. They're going to continue to give us inferior stuff in our neighborhoods. If they give us that, they're going to give us inferior foods to cook. They're going to give us all the fast food restaurants. You ever notice where you see a lack of grocery stores, you'll see a bunch of fast food restaurants? It's a food desert. It's only a food desert where it's concerned of us being healthy. But there's going to be a Burger King, a Wendy's, a McDonald's, a Hardee's, or whatever, Taco Bell. They all going to be there. KFC, Popeyes, but won't be right behind them will be a closed grocery store. Right behind them be a grocery store that hasn't been open for several years, but they got all these fast food restaurants. So there's a need. These people need food around here, because you wouldn't have all these fast food joints. Why ain't there a Walmart over there no more? Why ain't there a Kroger's over there no more? There's a reason, and that's systemic. And we got people out here fighting for certain causes in the street. I'm all for stopping gun violence, gang violence, this, that, and the other. I'm all for that. But once you stop that and you tell that boy, no, you can't do that, but I can help you get a job. Oh, that grocery store closed. Or I can help you go over all that place closed. There ain't no place for young kids to work no more. They shutting down all the fast food jobs.
Yes, they have.
They shutting a lot of them down. And fast food jobs are going to another folk now.
Yeah.
You go to a lot of our fast food joints around here, and you see more than when I was growing up, when we had what we call a true melting pot. You see more Latinos, Asians, and Arab kids working in fast food joints than you did back in the day. And those aren't the same people that have grown up in these areas, because them people, their kids didn't even work back then. These are the people that are coming into the territories now, because they're not all coming in affluent. They're not all coming in where they've got the bag. They're going to get the bag because they're getting all the resources. I get it. But they're coming in and they're taking jobs that our kids used to work at, or kids like myself. I never worked in a fast food restaurant, but I had a bunch of friends who did. And it was great ground level character building work for them to go off and do things as an adult. Those jobs aren't available. Grocery store jobs aren't available, simply because now you got more adults needing those jobs. I know they always talk about the retiree at the Walmart, the greeter. No, that ain't the retiree no more. He over there in the self-check lane. He's stocking shelves. It ain't just the old man and the old woman that's greeting no more. They actually in play. Why? It's systemic.
Right. But I will say this. We cannot advocate on behalf of our community if we are not healthy. That is the bottom line. And the people who buy the groceries are usually the fathers or the mothers. If the father and mother are morbidly obese and they're buying high caloric food, then the children are going to eat that. If the mother and father are sitting down playing video games on Instagram or doing something that's sedentary, the children are going to do it. I find it very alarming when I see young boys and teenage boys with breasts. I find that alarming. And that is a condition that's truly attributed to overweight and obesity. I don't see children around riding their bikes anymore. I don't see children around just playing. They're living a sedentary lifestyle. And if they don't see mom and dad get up in the morning and do exercises or go or be active, then they're going to follow suit. Fortunately, I grew up in a period where we were always active. I ran track. We were very active, and I'm still active to this day, even if it's only 30 minutes a day of some type of movement, because I don't want to go out like that. As my man always tells me, we're not going out like that. And so these series of conversations will get people going, because we have so many things going on, or so many adversities in our communities, but we can't fight that when we're sick.
Right.
We cannot fight that.
Right.
So what I would tell people is, think about your health right now. Do you want to live beyond the life expectancy that CDC has up there for you? I want to go longer. I want to see my grandson become a parent. I want to be that older lady.
So I think we need to start at the family. We'll start breaking this down the next time, the family. Because what we do know is we don't have the same family structures as we used to have. Grandmas and grandpas, they ain't the same no more.
No.
So we've got to start there, because they've got to start assuming the positions of being leaders. Because see, where a grandma, you go over to a grandma's house back in the day, something was cooking. You cracked that door, something was cooking. She had something on the stove. She wasn't grabbing her pocketbook to get ready to go take you to McDonald's. Something was on the stove, right? Whereas now, you pick the grandkids up, or the grandkids come over. I want McDonald's. I want this. I want that. Because that's what's been fed to them in the other days. And as a grandparent, you might take the easy route out and be like, oh, I ain't got to cook nothing. Wow. We got to switch that around as a collective. We got to get back. The main reason that I like having cooked food with my grandkids is to show them how to do things. Now, granted, they 3 and 7 right now. They may forget a lot of it, but the one things like my grandbaby, she knows she can't do no messing around. We love to play and horseplay. She can't do no messing around the stove. The stove is always hot, no matter whether it's on or not. The stove is always hot. I want her to look. She looks at the stove sometimes because every time you walk by, it's hot. My grandson, he don't even get close to the stove. It's an innate thing, because that was one of the things we talked about. Cooking food, it's got to be more fulfilling than just we're making it because fast food is why it's popular, because you can get it fast. You can cook food at home the same amount of time that it takes to cook something at the fast food joint. You didn't have to leave the comfort of your home, and you can get as much as you want. Because once you eat that fast food, once some wrappers are empty, you're done. And because that's empty calories, you're going to be on to eating something else anyway. So why not eat better food at home and have an abundance of it? We got to train ourselves. So I want to get into talking about family the next time and how we structure those things, because we already know we're not going to make things be able to go in reverse. We got to move forward amicably, but we've got to move forward strategically. And I think the mother, father, I don't care what code you breaking it down. If there's parents in the home, if there's grandparents in the mix, everybody's got to be on the same page. When you got kids, everybody's got to be on the same page. You've got to all believe that home cooked meals are definitely better than fast food. Fast food, I wouldn't say it's a reward, but it's got to be looked at as more of a treat. when these kids start getting older and they just call out a fast food situation before they say, can you just make some chicken? Can you just make some this, that, and the other? Then you know you in a bad space. Hey, what we eating? Oh, well, I saw something in the freezer. You know, I could thaw this out and da-da-dee-da-da-da. We went from that to what we eating. You start getting screenshots of fast food. Well, how about this? Or how about that? We haven't had this in a long time. That's what's going on in a lot of our households now. People they're not cooking as much because the kids can dictate the menu a lot of times. Because frankly, if we didn't have a teenager in the house and, you know, grandkids here intermittently, we probably wouldn't eat the way we eat, Ray and I. You know, we eat out of necessity. And one of the things that because I stopped eating meat doesn't mean I eat so great. I'm not the greatest eater. I just don't have that dynamic in my diet anymore. And I think that's where people they've got to figure out their why. My stream yesterday. Oh, and I'm going to timestamp that so you can see that part about the dog food. I'm going to tell you, it was alarming to me. And did you watch Good Times back in the day?
Yeah, you know, I thought about that episode with Wanda.
I talked about it. I talked about Gertie and the dog food and how I don't want to cook your grits on it. I'm gonna send it to you. But the main thing was we're in that state. We're in that state to where people are out here eating food that is not really made for human consumption. But statistically, when you look at the way they do the ingredients, it's no different as per the FDA from human food. I mean, you look at an Alpo. Wait a minute. You know what? Well, since we in here and we about to get up out of here, let me just give you this just so you can go back and you can see it. Oh yeah, this was a mess. This was a mess. Dr. Cynthia, this is what it was. Look at that. Back in the day, a dog was on the dog food can. Now you got a beautiful bowl and you got a ladle with gravy in it. And look off to the far left, you got a fork with steak.
But you know, I've always had problems with marketing of animal food because they were marketing it towards people. The animals didn't care. And they were and these marketing is done to get the people to crave that as if they were going to eat it with their dogs. Yeah.
So the thing is, when you take the animal off the food and then the marketing of it, Friskies, Alpo, chunky with liver. Now it's with beef in gravy, Purina Alpo prime cuts. Since when does a dog get prime cuts? That sounds like something your butcher will say. I got them prime cuts today. Extra gravy. And it's in a bowl with a ladle. And you got a fork. Dogs out here eating with forks now?
Oh, they have cooler section when you go into the supermarket. Now, I'm not against dogs. Dogs got to eat good too.
Sure.
You go in the grocery stores, instead of it being one aisle, there's like 5 aisles dedicated to your fur babies. And they even have refrigerated sections for dog foods.
Oh, yeah. Dogs do eat as well, if not better than some humans out here today.
Yes, they do.
So I just wanted to bring notice to where what's going on in this world, the way they position things. And I've heard this, and I heard it from a gentleman who was in a pet store, a really highfalutin type pet store where they had more natural organic products. His wording, he literally said, yeah, this stuff is like good enough for human consumption. Just in the midst of us having a conversation about some things that I was looking to do with pet food. And he said, this stuff is rated strong enough for human consumption, which lets me know that whether it be the dog food plant or the chunky soup plant, that stuff might be on the same level. I mean, you think about it. When I read a hot dog, I think it was a hot dog package years ago, and it said mechanically separated animal parts. which basically means they throw everything from the rooter to the tutor in that grinder, and that's what's in your hot dog. Now, when you get an all beef hot dog or an all chicken hot dog, doesn't necessarily mean you ain't getting no beak. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not getting no chicken feet. It's just ground up and been dyed. But the way I looked at that, mechanically separated, and go look at like fish pot, like what is it, Vandicamps and all that stuff, that pressed fish, mechanically separated fish parts. They crush up every kind of, and then they bleach it, and then they press it, and then they put that breading on it, and freeze it, and then ice block it and throw it in that thing. 35 minutes at 400 degrees. You got you a nice fish fillet of whatever kind of fish, you don't know. But that's what they've been giving us for years. And that stuff is just not good for us.
No.
You didn't just catch that fish out of clean water and gut it and clean it and cook it yourself. You don't know what you eating when you eating a Vandy Camp's fish triangle or a Vandy Camp's fish stick. And I've fed my kids that stuff. I ate it myself. I can't say that I have not done it, but this is why we have to be very careful eating processed foods, eating foods that just are barely standard, good enough standards for human consumption. But this was a good opening for the conversation, and hopefully all them butterflies that you had don't went away, because what we're going to do is we're going to basically detail our conversation, and we got to start at the base. The base is the family.
Yes.
And the structure of the family. Like I said, I don't care. Man, woman, woman, man, man, woman, woman. I don't care. Whoever's in the house and you're dealing with each other and you got kids, you're dealing with the family. Say you got an elderly person. We want to break it all down. We'll get like a little family tree. And as Michigan said in there earlier, what do you say there? Also, back in the day, our grandmothers like mine had gardens in their backyard. We had beans and tomatoes and stuff like that. This was a common thing. I lived in subsidized housing, and we all had a garden in our back. It was about 3x5 garden. We had one. The Davises had one. Winnie had one. Everybody had gardens in their back, and we picked from those gardens tomatoes and greens and cabbage, and we ate from those gardens for a good part of the year. A very good part of the year. Now you don't see nobody planting nothing. They don't do nothing but plant their feet on these mats in their car, press on the gas and the brake to the fast food joints or to the bad food joints. And this is what's happening. We're choosing bad diets.
Well, I'd like to say this, Shannon.
Yes, ma'am.
Our families were broken up during the late 70s and 80s and 90s through crack cocaine, people getting addicted to crack, mass incarceration, and that broke up a lot of families. It did. If you were brought up during that period of time, especially the millennials and the tail end of the Gen X's, they probably did not have that structure that we might have had with our grandparents. With an extended community where, eating out was a treat. We played. It was more social cohesion. There was a lot of different things. And we got to take that into consideration, because if you have not been taught how to cook, if you've not been taught how to purchase whole food, you're going to get what you're used to and what your pockets can afford.
Right. And I don't expect anybody to do anything that they don't know how to do. So I'm not expecting people to just go buy a whole bunch of groceries and just start cooking food. If they don't know how to prepare the food, it's going to turn out badly, and they're going to end up at the fast food joint or ordering a pizza anyway. So it all starts at the root. One of the things that I've loved seeing is the evolution of my daughter learning how to cook. She really didn't learn how to cook. She told me in her teen years. That was part of my detriment, because I cook, and my daughter, her sister, who I had custody of, saw me cook, and she cooked. She learned how to cook at a younger age, whereas my other daughter, who I only had a part of the time, didn't really have that same upbringing. But to this day now, she loves cooking, and she sees the benefits of being able to cook your own stuff versus eating fast food and eating bad food and just going out to eat. Having a youngin' and having a husband, she knows it's more fruitful to have things in the house to be able to cook. I love that she's evolved into that, because I took blame for that. Even though she wasn't with me full time, I still should have had her on the griddle when she was younger, but I tried to be nice. I tried to pacify. I tried to be what I'm telling you not to be. As a health professional, you have all of this intel, and I need you to pour it into people unapologetically. I know our people, we sensitive. We thick skin on some stuff, but we thin skin when you start talking about our weight, when you start talking about our hair, when you start talking about our clothes, when you start talking about all this stuff. But you know what? Sometimes the truth just gonna hurt. I don't really believe that the truth never hurts. I don't think you can really have a truth and have it not hurt. It's gonna hurt somebody. It's either gonna hurt you or hurt somebody else. So that's really where I want to kind of wind this down, and we're getting close to 90 minutes and we can get up out of here soon. Your basic advice to an individual who feels like, I'm getting a little heavy here, I don't eat as much as I used to, I know I don't move as much as I used to. What is your basic advice to that individual that's just kind of in the middle, and maybe they don't have a significant other, and maybe they don't have kids that they have to provide meals for? They just out here, they just on their own, just solo dolo. What's your message to that individual? What's the first thing they need to do to start trying to turn this thing around before it gets out of hand?
Well, the first thing I would tell someone is drink a lot of water.
Okay.
Get rid of the sugary drinks, even the diet pop and all the sugar-free. Get rid of that. Just drink pure water, and you got to move, even if it's only 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And if you have a smartphone or a tablet, mm-hmm. there's a large selection of beginning walking exercises that are mm-hmm. on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some that's as short as 10 minutes and some as long as 60, but you got to start somewhere.
Right.
You got to start somewhere. If you're an early riser in the mornings, walk for 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
At lunchtime, if you could walk for 5 or 10 minutes, do so. But start moving and drinking water.
Okay.
And then, start slowly with reducing processed foods. Start slowly. If you're used to eating out 5 times a week, maybe cut it down to 3 times a week.
Right.
And then from 3, maybe to 1, maybe mm-hmm. once a month. But you got to start slowly.
You got to start. So cold turkey, I've always been told that's one of the worst ways you can do anything. You'll coil back. It's almost like putting yourself in a slingshot mm-hmm. by going cold turkey, because you end up just, going back to where you were. One of the things that you just said about the pop, and this is for people who, most of the people out here have not had bariatric processes. I hate to see an individual drinking a bunch of pop, because one of the things that I learned about soda pop, the carbonation elasticizes our intestines. And where you drink a pop, and this is where you've seen this before, this person wanted to finish up a little food. What'd they do? They drank what was on the table, which is most likely a pop. They drank it and belched. When you belch, you push what you got in your system down. It expands. It gives you more room. It gives you more air. On an empty stomach, I see people all day drinking Pepsi, drinking Coke. On an empty stomach, drinking Pepsi, drinking Coke. And they think they doing good because they ain't ate a whole lot of food. But when you do see them eat, you better start fastening stuff down, because they trying to eat everything in the house, because now they got that big cavity that they got to fill. Drinking pop elasticizes, and that's why that's the first thing that they make you commit to doing in the program that I went through, was to stop drinking pop. If you couldn't come in, and they can actually prove somehow there's things in your blood count, blood levels, they know that you're drinking like a lot of carbonated beverages. It's not so much just pop, it's carbon. Like I had to give up beer. I wasn't a big beer drinker, but I had to give up because it has carbonation in it. Most energy drinks and things like that have all that fizz in it. Sparkling water. You can't have that stuff when you have bariatric process because it will stretch out your intestines and you'll slowly but surely begin to start to be able to eat more food than you're supposed to. And you won't know it. Like right to this day, I'm 11 years out. No, I'm sorry. I'm 10 years out. 11 years was when I started my full year in of the process. I can't eat more than 3 slices of pizza. Not that I want to. They can be decked out. They can be thin. It's just about the amount, the crust. If I'm eating from a large pizza, I can't eat more than 3 slices of pizza. My gut won't let me do it. Now, had I started drinking pop years ago, I probably could be able to eat 5, 6 slices, maybe be able to eat a whole pizza. Who knows? But that type of gluttony goes away when they tie you all up and you can't put that stuff in there, because 2 things are going to happen. It's either going to come out your mouth or it's going to go down the other way, and neither one of them are good. They're both violent. That's why they tell you stop drinking pop. It's violent. I don't have them situations where I tried to eat too fast or tried to eat something that was too hot. It's because I'm basically straight piped. I'm like a car without a catalytic converter. I don't have all that stuff in the middle anymore that allows me to process. Like if I get a cold, I get a different type of cold than you would get, or that most people get, because I don't have all the stuff that can break down medicines. I might get drunk on cold medicine before it'll help me, like cold cough syrup, because of the alcohol content. I might get a buzz because I don't have the same things going on. Now, other people that have other type of bariatric processes, they don't get sick like I get sick because they might have got the sleeve or the band. I'm totally rewired. And what hurts me now is I don't exercise enough, Doc. I don't walk enough. I don't exercise enough. And what I really want to work on is my gut health. My Achilles heel right now is my gut health. It's much smaller than it used to be. My waistline is much smaller than it used to be, but that's where I carry a lot of my mass. So that's what I really want to help. And thank goodness everything else around me works and is fully functional. So I ain't got them other issues that some brothers that might even be my same weight might have, because I've been able to maneuver and manipulate my life in a different fashion. But I want to thank you just for you being you. And next time, I'm gonna need you to let loose a little bit more, Doc, because you have so much inside of you just on a personal state. And I want to talk, hopefully, maybe, because I know he's coming home in a couple weeks. I want to talk possibly with you and your king, because I know he pushes you, even from afar. How many miles are y'all apart?
Long way.
It's like 4 or 5 figures.
Yeah.
It's a long way, right?
Yeah.
To have a person like that be in your corner when they're not over there in the corner, that's beautiful. Because we got people that can't be in the same house now and have that type of relationship. So I want to be able to build with you, with him, and this all comes from our love for our people. We're only doing this for our love for our people. Right. As I told you before, I mean, I could talk about goofy stuff all day and then I could go viral. But what do I get out of that? I'll get some followers, some subscribers, some views, I'll get a super chat. But that ain't what this is about. I'm trying to get our people liberated. Right. And we can't liberate our collective until we liberate ourselves, our minds, our bodies, our souls. We can't be out here fat and out of shape talking about we're gonna fight a war against the system. We're gonna fight systemic oppression, systemic racism, systemic this, systemic that. When we got systemic weight gain, we can't do it.
I would like to say this: United States, we have the best health services industry. Now, there's a difference between public health and health services. Health services is when you go to the doctors and all the different specialties. Public health looks at the populations and it's best defined as the art and the art and the science of in protecting and improving communities, not community, but communities. Because we have multiple communities. And so my aim is to improve the health of our community. And no one advocates for us. No one advocates for us.
This is true. This is true.
No one. We have to advocate for ourselves.
Right. And I know we get caught up in these conversations a lot, and we talk about repair. We have to look to that as policy that we need to be seeking out as well. I don't believe, personally, I don't believe the politicians that we elect and we put into office are really advocating on our behalf from a health standpoint. I think they need us healthy enough to get to the polls. They need us healthy enough to cast that vote, but they don't think about us on the grand scale, what happens after these elections. And when they wander up in our churches and our community centers and our schools where our kids go and things like that, we need to be talking about the food that is being served in our schools. We need to be talking about grocery stores in our neighborhoods and communities. We need to be talking about farmers markets. I'm connected with some gentlemen that run farmers markets. And, you know, these things, we need the accesses to these things, because if we don't, we can't be healthy. We can't get help. We're not going to liberate ourselves with fast food restaurants or sit down restaurants, Coney Islands. And it's not going to happen through that. It's going to happen through us getting back to the basics of producing, not just cooking, but producing our own food, buying food that we will cook.
And this is where public policies come in. Okay. Yes. Public policy has to come into that. And if you're not healthy to advocate on a level in which you can engage folk, then I don't know. But, you know, definitely, I would love to continue this conversation.
Oh, we will.
Our series, because it's very important.
It's just, to me, I don't think that I can move forward with anybody that's not trying to think on a more healthy, conscious level. I'm not telling everybody, we got to go get gym memberships. We got to do this. No. On an individual basis, I need you to make an about face, because I see what's about to happen to you, because I've been there. I can at least speak on that. I've been there. And I don't want to see anybody going down that path, because frankly, most people can't do what I did. Doctors told me the only way you made it is you had an active childhood. You had an active teenage year. See, if I hadn't have played sports, they told me I had a lot of muscle, but it was covered in so much mass that was not muscle. That was the problem. They said, but the muscle, as we know now, muscle weighs more than fat. They said your muscles basically were being pinned down by all of the mass, the water and the cellulite. I don't even like to think some of the conversations that I had with my doctors when they would just basically tell me, they're like, if you were just to be cut open, like right here, this is like 80% fat on certain parts of my body at the time. And I had to hear that to make me want to turn around, to make me want to about face. I know that if I tell the average person out there, they ain't going back to that doctor again. Don't nobody want to hear that. I asked my doctor, I said, you know, doc, I see people's legs sometimes, you know, they got this little like muscle. They got to look like, and you know, they call it, you've heard this term, like a person that'll like a flex their calf and it looks like two little center cut pork chops, their calf muscle. I didn't have that. I didn't have that no more. I got so big. I didn't have that. I didn't have them two little pork chops. I just had one big chop. Like there was no center.
I never heard of that one.
I can laugh at it now. I'm serious. They like pork chops, you know, because it looks like your calf muscles kind of look like pork chops when you're really in shape. You look at a person that's really in shape and watch them flex their calf. It looks like two little center cut pork chops. And you got this little, I'm telling you, when I asked the doctor, how come my leg didn't look like that? He was like, because this is all fat. Because there's water, there's fat. He's like, this is all fat. He was like, you lose 50, 60, 100 pounds, you'll start to see a little bit of division because there's two muscles there. He's like, you'll see it. And lo and behold, I saw it. Let me see. Hold on a second. Yeah, I can make a calf. I can flex my calf muscle now, and I can feel where it pops out a little bit. I'm definitely not where I need to be, but I couldn't feel that for years. And then I had behind my legs. Have you ever noticed how people that are really, really, really overweight, they can't sit their legs up in a 90-degree position in a chair? Their legs have to stay straight out. You ever notice that? It's because of something behind their calf. And I don't forgot the name of it because I ain't got it no more. But you get a buildup.
Is it lymphedema? Where they have...
That's not the name. That's a little longer than what this name is.
Okay.
I'm gonna find out what it was. But it's like fat deposits that just
that's lymphedema.
Okay.
Lymphedema, where you have that extra pocket and it's real big.
Yeah, they called it something else to me though. I don't remember lymphedema. And lymphedema almost sounds like erectile dysfunction, but anyway, you know I'm silly.
Yes, you are.
So I don't know exactly what it was called, but yeah, I had that. Did not know. And you know how I figured out that I had it? Every time I'm sitting my behind on the toilet, my legs was going to sleep. And that's a hard situation to have when you on the toilet and your legs going to sleep. Now you can't move, you can't get up, you can't. So I had to sit there and let my legs wake up and then do my thing and then get up. I mean, I went through some stuff. I got so many stories about those times, those days, those histories. But our next conversation, we'll get together and have a little huddle. We want to talk about the family dynamic and where we start, because like I said, we can't go back in history. We can't change things the way they are. We've got to progress from the stance that we're at now. And that's just getting everybody in the family on the same page. And, you know, like you said, if you're a 5-dayer, take it down to 3. If you're a 3-dayer, take it down to 1. But we don't expect nobody to make an about-face turnaround with no help, no support. And truly, other than just being healthy, they don't have any other reason to do it. Nobody really thinks about this when they're just sitting around saying, you know, I'm going to watch the game. Nah, I think I'm going to go jogging. They're going to watch the game. Then they're going to pick up their phone. Then they're going to order some pizza and some wings. And that's what they're going to do. Nobody's in that state of mind like, instead of watching this game, I think I'm going to go out and walk a couple miles, walk my neighborhood. We got to get people in that. DVR that game. You don't need to watch that game live. DVR that game, get out that chair, and then go walk before it gets dark. Because you ain't gonna walk in the dark. Go ahead and walk now. Get your exercise. We got to start talking to people that way, because I think that's really the only way we turn it around. But Sister Cynthia, let me bring you back up, because you have been very helpful to this discussion. I hate just talking to myself sometimes. I love having somebody that knows more than me. Them initials behind your name, that means something to me. If you got that doctor in front and that PhD in the back, that means something when you can really bring the game. I know you were nervous today. I'm not even going to grade you on today's performance because I already knew what was going to happen. I was like, she's going to be real restrained. I was like, no, I need you to be how you be online, you know, and really putting your foot in this message, because our people need people like us. Right now, there's 2 or 3 podcasts going on right now that's talking about Khalees and Bill Murray and talking about, you know, other stuff that don't matter to us. You know who Khalees is?
No.
So you remember the song, My Milkshake Brings All the Boys to the Yard? She was married to a rapper named Nas. This is okay. She now dating Bill Murray. She
the Ghostbuster Bill Murray.
Yeah, the ghost. He about 80 now. So yeah. And it's being laughed at. It's being clowned simply because here. Let me do something. We're gonna get out of here. Let me just do something real quick. Let me just show you where we are as a people. This is what people are into right now. Khalees, Bill Murray. Bam. Yeah, let's bring this up.
See, that kind of stuff is escapism, and I don't operate in those spheres at
Yeah,
all.
I get it. I get it. I get it. But this is a person that was making music and living a life, of celebrity. These two people are dating now. These two people are dating. The rumor mill has churned on another wild card celebrity romance, Bill Murray and Khalees. And she had this song that was called My Milkshake Brings All the Boys to the Yard. And she was married to, like I said, a rapper named Nas. She was famous. She had her 15 minutes.
Okay.
She had her 15 minutes. I'll give it to her. But the main thing is she don't hit that wall now, Dr. Cynthia. She don't hit that wall now. And she might be looking for a little bit of stability. As you know, we have not received our full schedule of reparations, so she might be looking for that. Now, I don't believe this relationship is going to make it out of 2023, but I've heard that Bill Murray loves melanated women. And
when you say melanated, are you talking about Black women?
Hey, I was trying to be nice. I was trying to be nice.
Specificity, and that's another thing about me. Specificity is very important.
Yeah.
And that's why when I was going through the prevalence level about non-Hispanic Black, non-Hispanic white, non-Hispanic Asian, and Hispanic, it's very important that we know who we're talking about because we cannot aggregate people.
Right. So let me I'm gonna cut this real quick. It's about to show who she was, and then we're gonna get out of here. I'm only doing this because you don't know who she is, but we ain't gonna listen to any more of this. Dismiss that. Bam, bam. We're gonna play. Yeah, see, that's who she was. That's her ex-husband right there.
I don't see it. Hat. I don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it? Oh. Oh. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh.
The man, that's her ex-husband right there.
Okay.
So I don't want to get no copyright strike, but yeah.
Okay, good. I'm good. I don't.
Yeah. We don't need that. Mm-hmm. But that's what we're dealing with. Everybody's cast is about that right now. Everybody talking about Bill Murray and Khalees. Right. I have no interest in that shit. I have no interest in that because Bill Murray is not going to help us become liberated. He'll help us laugh, but he ain't going to help us become liberated. Khalees is not going to help us become liberated. Bill Murray is looking for his next bag, and she looking for her next bag. And their bags ain't the same.
That's nothing but escapism. We have to focus on our people.
That's it. That's all. And this is why, like I said, and I'll always make a joke about, they over there watching all that stuff. And then they want to come to me and ask me in my very, very intermediate knowledge about this politic and that how come y'all don't want to talk about these conversations together? Why you always want to kind of pick something that you might have heard me say or post or whatever? No, put both your feet in the water and get in here with me. Let's become liberated together. Don't let me try to fish through things. Wait, what's that ADOS stuff about? What's that American Freedmen stuff about? What's that reparations? Come on in here and talk to me, with me, and let's come up together. Because that's the only way I think that we do it. It ain't about me just passing the message around. This ain't a joint. We can't just pass reparations discussions around like a joint. We got to have these discussions not only with ourselves. We got to cross that line. I have no problem with talking to white folks about reparations, especially when they know they've benefited off of our bloodshed, our ancestral bloodshed for hundreds of years. Absolutely. I have no problem with that. Anybody say, well, I don't owe anything. You don't, but the government does, and your ancestors did something to my ancestors.
Right. So and they inherited the debt. You inherited the debt.
Exactly. Right. So, But before we get off into another whole half an hour talking about reparations, because we know we can.
Yeah.
see, you know what? I need that attitude. I need that Dr. Cynthia. You was about to get grim with it. So I need that when we start talking about obesity in the Black community again, because we are at risk. Sis,
Yes.
we at risk. We're at risk just walking out the house now. You've been hearing about these. We can't go into a gas station. We can't go into a party store without some attendant coming out from behind the glass and killing us. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. People trying to buy products and still getting shot. They trying to buy products and they getting shot. So there's no regard for our life. We have no executive protection. So the first thing that we need to do is get healthy enough to where we have to be able to protect ourselves. So I appreciate you coming up today. I appreciate you taking the time to just break things down to where I wouldn't be able to break them down statistically, and just having this dialogue with me. Everybody that's been in the chat, appreciate y'all. What we need to do is we need to get together and schedule the next one and give it some time to kind of swell up. Put it out on Twitter, put it on Instagram, this, that, and the other, because all these programs and situations are not synced up. But let's build it up, get people anticipating it, and make sure. We had somebody that was earlier in the conversation that said, this is an interesting discussion. I'm glad they thought that, but we need several more people to think that so they can take it to their people and they can take it to their people. Because if not, we're just in an echo chamber. We're just talking and having this conversation, and we don't need all this. We got each other's number. We got each other's DMs. We can do all that, but we're trying to spread the wealth. We're trying to spread the wealth. We're trying to spread the knowledge, and I appreciate you. So go on, get on with the rest of your Saturday. Say hello to your king for me. I know he don't know me from a can of paint, but say hello to your king from me. Can't wait till he makes it back. And when you're all together, because I know you're at your happiest and you're at your strongest when he's home. So it's just been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And everybody that's listening and going to hear the playback, make sure you share this stream and subscribe to the Villager on Deck YouTube channel, the Villager on Deck YouTube channel, as we continue to build that platform. Sister Cynthia, I appreciate you. If you have anything else to say, the floor is yours. If not, I'm going to bid farewell.
All I would like to say is thank you for allowing me to come from a professional background to discuss the importance of our health, because always, and this is my mantra, I say this all the time, our health is our wealth. It really and truly is. You can be the most wealthiest person, but if your body is jacked up, you can't do anything.
You can't. And I guess I got one more thing. Well, I'm such an overtalker. We had a gentleman named LeVan Hawkins. I don't know if you ever ran across that name. He owned tons of restaurants, Burger Kings and Pizza Huts and all types of stuff. He was huge. I mean, I'm saying he probably had to be somewhere in that 400 or 500 pound range, but he was a great dresser. And he could swoon you. You know, he was a gregarious individual, great dresser. He was always slick. Got into some type of financial trouble and may have even ended up doing some type of Fed time. I'm not sure if he did or not, but he's gone now. He left up out of here way too early. And I truly believe it was because his health was not at an optimal level, and he had millions. He had millions. He was opening up restaurants outside of the fast food chains. He was opening up 5-star sit-down restaurants in the city of Detroit on top of the Renaissance Center and all types of stuff. But the one thing that nobody ever really paid attention to, that man wasn't healthy he wasn't healthy from the get. Probably ate some of the finest foods in the world. I'm sure he didn't eat at Burger King and Pizza Hut every day, but he never got his health in order, and he's not here today. Not here. And that's a problem. When somebody told me that he had passed away, I was like, what? Like, yeah. They're like, and nobody talks about it at all. Like, literally don't say nothing. He died. And those types of people can raise up to the highest heights. And when they leave us, what happened? You can always kind of trail it back to it was his health. Because he had all the money that could have bought him the days. If he needed the days based on the dollars he had, he'd live past both of us together. But them dollars ain't going to save you.
No.
You know, them dollars ain't going to save you. Good heart, good organs, good everything going will give us what we need. but them dollars ain't gonna save us. So I appreciate you. I love you, sis. Let's get back together at this real soon.
Okay.
All right. Talk soon.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye.
This revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.